Well, hello again. My name is Leif, and welcome to another installment of the Essentials Training for Service Tools. Today we're going to do something a little more exciting than settings. We're going to do some print templates. Now this is a pretty powerful tool that we're pretty proud of around here. It allows you to really customize how your quote looks. You can really make it your own and make it pop however you want to. We can set up as many different templates as we want so that we can portray our quotes in different ways for different customers if we need to. So let's get started here. I'll show you around a little bit. These three buttons on the bottom are the three different types of templates that we can create. So there's quotes, invoices, and work orders that we can make templates for. And each one of those includes the pieces parts on these buttons above them. So the cover page all the way down through summary page. So each one of those we set up and then assign to different templates. So let's go over that in depth. Let's go for we'll say a line item. Now we do include a bunch of default templates that you can feel free to use or modify as you wish. Might be a good starting point for whatever you want to do. And we'll show you how to load those up here. So you just select the template that we want to load and click the load button. And this is one of our defaults right here. So as you can see, we got the product image, the model number, quantity, all that kind of stuff. Price, the space for a service item, and an explanation and some notes in case there's any notes in the line item. So those are all things that you can drop in. Now while this looks pretty nice already, we're going to start over so we can see how we create this from scratch. So we'll click this start over button. That's going to clear everything out. So this blank box right here is our workspace, and that's what we're going to be dragging all of these little pieces parts into to create our template part. So as you can see up here, this is a 7.5 inch by 1.5 inch block, and we might need that a little bit bigger. We can make it any height we want to. But it's always good to start out a little bit bigger than you think you might need, and then shrink it down once you're all done. So that is locked at 7.5 inches wide, and we designed this to fit on a 8.5 by 11 inch piece of paper, and with 1/2 inch margins. So 7.5 inches is what you have to work with there, and you can take up all of that if you want. So one of the first things that we want to do is come up here and click on this button. And that'll let us format this block. We can give it a different background color. We can make it a background image by pasting an image in there, and we'll show you that a little bit later. The text properties don't really have anything to do with this with the workspace, but you can give it a border and play with the margin and padding. And we'll go over that a little bit later as well. So you can click over here to get out of that. And all you have to do in order to drop one of these things in is just click on it and drag it wherever you want it. If we don't want it there, we can either select it, as you can see it's highlighted in red, and press the delete button, or we could just drag it back over into the list. So one thing, we'll do kind of a minimalist type of line item here. We'll take our product image and we'll drop it right there. Now maybe we want it a little bit bigger, so we can resize this just by clicking and dragging on the corner there. And if we don't want it to get all squished or funny, we can actually lock the aspect ratio by holding shift while we're resizing it. And that'll keep that aspect ratio correct. So this looks like a pretty good size right there. Yeah, we'll just say right there. Next thing we want is probably some quantities and model numbers and things like that, just so they know what that is. So you can find all of those things like line quantity, unit, manufacturer as separate items if you want to down here, or we can group them all together in one block. So no matter what design you're going for, you got an option there. So we'll drop the whole shebang over into here, and let's say we just make that as wide as possible. So next thing we can do is maybe we want this text to be a little bit bigger or bold or something, is we can right click on this block and choose edit block. And now we can do the same thing here as we could with the background. We can change the background if we want to. We can leave it white. I'm just going to leave it white. We can play with the transparency. Anything we want to there. So maybe I want this to have kind of a fun look. We'll change it to a Comic Sans NMS. Give it some bold and give it some size. There we go. Looks pretty good. We can also justify this left or right, center, however we want to do that. Well, let's just say center. Yeah, left. We can also give it a border if we want to. I don't think I'll give that one a border, but we can also play with the margin and padding. Now the margin is the space around the block on the outside of the edge. So if we raise that up, you can see the space around that block increases. This isn't usually something that you'd need to play with unless you're going for something a little different. The padding, on the other hand, might be something that you play with, as that gives you some space on the inside of the block. I think we'll just leave that down there at 5, though. Now, if you are familiar with cascading style sheets or CSS, you can always input your own CSS code down in this box down here if you're going for something really custom. And otherwise, if you're not, and you still want to do something really custom that you can't quite figure out, we'll be more than happy to help you out there and give you some suggestions or some code that you might be able to put in here if we need to get really custom with it. So always feel free to give us a shout. We will close that for now. I think the next thing that we might need is maybe our description. The description is kind of the short description of the product, and the text is kind of a long description of the product. So maybe we'll just do the text. I think putting the text down here might be a good idea. Yeah, maybe we drop this down a little bit and put our price up here. Give it a little room in case it's really expensive. We'll edit that block, do a right hand, we'll match that font, and make it a little bit bigger and bolder. Yes, I like that. Maybe we could also do something a little bit different here. We'll take the quantity in unit, give that a little bit of space here, make that bigger and bolder. Maybe we take this one and swap it out for manufacturer model description. There we go. Oops. So there. We'll make sure that's sized up nicely. So there we go. Now we can do things like add optional tag in case this is an optional line item. Maybe we make that a different color too. So we'll right click on that, go to edit block, we'll do our comic thing, bold it up, and get that centered. I also want to make it obvious that it is an optional item. And maybe we want to give this a different color. So you can always pick a color over here. You can input the hex number if you know it. And when you were setting up your company settings, you chose a theme color. And that's what color all your scroll bars are and the little shadows and stuff everywhere. And you can use that theme color if you want to as well. So maybe we'll do that. That'll give us a little pop on our line item. So yeah, that looks pretty good. Now with every product line item, there is a service item associated with that. So we're going to want to give it a container to hold that service item. Now this is going to have all the details of the labor that you're putting into installing this. Now this is going to include all the details about the labor that is attached to this line item here. So that'll have your different choices and options and those individual prices as well. And that'll fill in automatically with that information. So we just need to give that some space, and that will automatically grow or shrink depending on how big that needs to be. So we'll just leave that right there. This is basically going to be your minimum height. Whatever you set this at is going to be the minimum height of that. So maybe we'll make it small. There's also, you can always write in an explanation for a line item. We'll go over all that when we get into building a quote. But you can include an explanation too, so maybe we need that down at the bottom. And if there is no explanation, this will just be blank. So this looks pretty good to me. One other thing to note here is if you find yourself needing to move multiple blocks at once, you can do that. You just select one block and then hold down the control key while you select more blocks. And then when you move those, they'll all move together. But we'll leave that right there for now. And we'll just smallerize this guy, make everything fit nicely in there. And then we'll go to save it. So in order to save this, we'll want to go up here again, go to Save New Template, and click the Save button. And we'll just call this line item 1. So what this is asking is if we want to take what we've saved here and apply it to any of the quote, invoice, or work order templates that are using this. But since it's a new line item template, we'll just say yes, and it's not going to affect anything. So now we have line item 1 is in our templates list. Now if we need to delete that, we can always go up here and click this delete button. We can also preview what this is going to look like with this button. So this is what it'll look like on the actual quote. I know I do have a little width issue up here that I'm going to be fixing probably before anybody even watches this video. So you can see here too that there is a border right above the service item container. So if we did not want that, we could go into the service item container, right click on it, go to edit block, and then come down here to the borders. As you can see, we got a solid border, 1 pixel. We could make that bigger if we wanted to, or just click none and close that out. And then if we preview it, there's no border there. So play with that however you want to, and make it your own. A couple other things I might do here would be to make sure that the service item is also comic. Get everything flowing. And our explanation. And what's going to happen is when the service information is filled in, if we don't have an explanation here, it's going to go right into our next line item. So what I might do is actually edit this block and give the whole block a border on the bottom to kind of separate it from the line item below it. So maybe we do, let's do a solid 3 pixels will be fine. I'm going to use a theme color. I think that would be nice. And we'll save that and save it to any of the other templates that are using it. And there we go. I think that'll probably look pretty nice. So let's go into cover page. I'm going to show you a few more things. We'll load up our standard default here, and we're going to do something cool here. One thing to note is this list of pieces parts might be a little bit different depending on the type of template you're putting together. So good practice would be to go through here, see what there is, and then go from there. But for now, we're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom to custom text, and we can have as many custom text blocks as we want in here. We'll just hit OK and resize that. There we go. Now I'm going to go through and delete that text. If I delete it right off the bat, it'll give me a 0 by 0 size block, which is a little tricky to resize. So I'll work on that. That's on my bug list, and we'll get that fixed in no time. So now what I'm going to want to do is right click on this and go to edit block, and I'm going to make this a picture. So we can paste a picture up in this field here. Let's go find one. This one looks nice. We'll go to copy and then come back over here and paste that right in there, and blammo, we got a picture. Then we can resize that, make that as big or as small as we want to, and yeah, there we go. So now, if you've noticed, I've covered up my author info with this picture. So what we can do here is right click on this guy and hit send to back, and that will set that picture as the bottom layer. So that is one thing to keep in mind, is that these are layerable. So you want to make sure that you're not covering up important information with blocks. If you do get in trouble, you can always send it to the front or the back. We'll leave it in the back here and show you another cool little thing, is transparency. So we can make this background transparent, which would allow us to see the image behind it, even though this is a front layer. So we might want to make that text white as well, just so it's a little more visible. And there we go. Another cool trick. So one more thing, we'll head over to summary page here, and we'll load up the standard quote summary page. This is our default. If you notice on the bottom here, these blocks have these diagonal blue lines in them, indicating that they are frozen. So that is another option here. You can either unfreeze or freeze a block, and what that means is that that block is stuck right there on that page. It's not moving. With most of these templates, when the line item gets bigger or there's more line items, everything moves down with it. So these frozen blocks will just stay put. This is kind of handy for like signature lines and things like that you need at the bottom of the page. But one thing to just keep in mind is that if we have a long list of adjustments or payment terms or a lot of payments, it's possible that might overlap these frozen blocks a little bit. So just keep that in mind. Give yourself some room to work, especially on this summary page. You never know how many payment terms you're going to have if you're on a big commercial job, for instance. So there's that. So now that you guys know how to make your templates look amazing, we'll go over here and put it all together. So we'll click on quote templates, And that'll bring us to our builder here. So what we're going to want to do is just select which one of these pieces parts we want in our template, and it'll kind of give you a little preview over there in the workspace of how that's going to look. So let's do a mini page header, a small footer, a section header, a section scope. We'll do our line item 1 that we just put together, our labor line items, package header, and our section footer, and our summary page. One thing here, if you click on this checkbox, that will take your summary page and put it up before all of your sections. So you'll still have your cover page is always going to be first, but you can put your summary page before the sections if you have that customer that doesn't care about the line items and just wants the bottom line, or it could be handy for invoices as well. So we'll leave that unchecked. We'll leave it at the end, and we'll go ahead and save this thing. So we'll come up here and go to Save New Template, click the Save button, and we'll just call this Demo Template. Okay, so now we have a new template set up. So let's go ahead and create a new quote. We'll come up here to New Quote. We'll choose Bruce Banner, and he's going to want new Iron Man suit for his workshop. So let's come over here and drop in a complete Iron Man package. Right there looks nice. We'll find some products here as well. Let's say everybody needs a ground loop hum eliminator and maybe a high to low voltage relay adapter. That might be handy. We'll click Save. And we've been assigned quote number 51. Okay, so if we go up here into project settings, down at the bottom, you can see where we can choose which template we want to use for this customer. So we're going to choose Demo Template. And there's a couple options down here, and I'll show you exactly what those do in a second. But we'll apply that template, and we can go up here to View Quote. Oh, but first we'll type in a little scope of work here. There we go. Now we can go into View Quote. There we go. We got our descriptions of work up here. Our consolidated package is right here. We'll go into that a little bit in a minute. And our line items like we set them up. We got our little border separating them, our service items, and everything else like we set it up. So let's go into this consolidated package. What that means is that it just includes a description and a small list of the line items that are included in that package. So if we go back into our quote and our project settings, we can check this Itemize Package button, and that will just break out those line items in the package into their full versions, as you can see here. So we still have our description, but the line items have all been broken out into their full template that we set up earlier. So one other thing to note here is that the scopes of work are all up here at the top. So if we had multiple sections, all of the scopes and all the sections would be up here. If we go back into our project settings, we can change that. We want to uncheck Consolidate Scopes and hit Apply. And then when we view that quote again, all those sections will now live, or all those scopes will now live in their sections. So those are a couple things that might affect how your print template looks. And that's about it for that. So now that you're a template building pro, go out and play with these things, have fun with it, make it your own. And if you do get stuck, always feel free to give us a shout, and we'll be more than happy to help you out with whatever you need there. So that'll wrap it up for now. Until next time, we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.